One thing about Olajuwon, he's gonna say something wrong. And this is why I'm still confused on how to say his name, because he can't even say gondola right.
I don't even know what this is called again, my fault. But
Gondola ride.
gondola ride.
Gondola.
I mean, neither could Katina, but you know, they gonna stick beside each other.
That's mine.
And that's what you're going to settle for.
I'm gonna stick beside him.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Taste of Reality. My name is Queenie, for those who don't know me, reviewing both the episode and the after party. I just don't have the energy to do two separate videos. So if you're only here for the after party, you can skip to this timestamp right here. And if you want the whole thing, well, let's get into it. Before I do, as always, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and let's talk about some mess. Okay, so we're gonna start with Noi and Steve because there really wasn't much going on with the two of them. Steve is struggling with Noi being able to confide in other people about their relationship and not take their issues to him so that they can resolve things.
She shuts down, talks it out with her friend.
Yeah.
And then I think they
Come up with a solution.
Yeah. It's like, man, like, you couldn't even talk to me first?
In my opinion, as long as she's not trashing him, I feel like it's okay at this stage in their relationship, because the reality is her friends, her family are going to be able to call her out on her BS easier than it would be for you because you barely know her. You know what I mean? And that's also if the friends are the type of people to call her out on her BS. And I feel like they are, because if they're there to coddle her, then definitely it would be an issue. But if they're honest with her and if she's honest in telling what's actually going on in their relationship, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's great to have people who are able to be honest with her without making her feel like they're on the attack, because she knows them. She has a relationship with them. She says she loves you. I still feel like the love word is premature, but y'all just aren't there yet. You don't know each other well enough yet, so leave it to the other people to call her out. They have their month anniversary. He gets them like couples matching leopard print outfits, even the dog. Sushi has an outfit as well. And they cap their anniversary with a date night on the water, on the Boston something. I really should know this because the Boston Tea Party is part of Canadian history too. But I also wasn't that great at social studies. So nothing much happened with them, but I found it funny how she feels like their relationship has been going on for like several years, and he only says several months. And it's kind of indicative of how their relationship has been going. She's this like, you know, I can already see ourselves 50 years down the line. We love each other. We got our 3 kids. We have this amazing lifestyle. And he's like, okay, little by little here. I just thought that was interesting. The employment thing is still an issue. And I'm like, listen here, babes. He wants to be an influencer. That's a joke, but like, not really. Because he said he wants to work, you know, in something that's freelance. He doesn't want to be stuck at a 9-to-5. He doesn't want something that cripples his creativity. He wants to still be able to like be a nomad and, you know, what was the word? Vagabond, as his dad would say. Influencer. That's what it's giving me. I'm joking, but like not really. And most people, when they come off the show, basically have a social media platform that they can use as income. So, girl, y'all gonna be just fine. Maybe. I don't know. On to Mark and Lindsey. Mark says that work has advised him that maybe he should return after filming. And I'm here thinking, wow, that's a very fancy way to say you got fired. Because, so are you on a 4-week sabbatical? Because filming technically ends in 4 weeks, but then you got to come back like 2 or 3 months later to film all the other stuff, right? Or is this an indefinite leave? I'm leaning towards indefinite. That's just where I'm leaning. He's talking to Lindsey about the situation, and he's basically saying, I need something to do every day. I need, you know, work. I can't be idle for too long. And she's like, you won't be idle. You'll be focusing on me.
You can work on getting to know me in this marriage. If we're gonna have kids and a family and all that stuff, the idea of you having a week to yourself with nobody bothering you, It's probably never gonna happen.
Nah, mama. You know exactly what he meant by that, okay? What's the words? An idle mind is a devil's playing ground. Like, he just needs something to keep him occupied during the day because it gets old very quickly. And, you start to get into some things that you're not supposed to get into. So he then is saying, he just wants to focus on his career. And somehow Lindsey interpreted it as he wants nothing to do with the marriage. He wants nothing to do with her. He wants nothing to do with their potential children. And I'm like, now where'd you get that? Where did you hear any of that? The jumping to conclusions, the doomsday perspective of Lindsey is just, oh my gosh, it's insane. I mean, I get the fact that there isn't likely going to be a time where he would have no responsibilities and all you have is, time to invest in your marriage. Cool. But him saying, listen, I just need something to work towards career-wise has nothing to do with your relationship. It doesn't nullify your connection. It doesn't nullify your future. Like, the fact that that's where her mind jumped to is just insane to me. Mark takes Lindsey off the grid for their anniversary date. And immediately I was like, oh, one of them is coming back alone. You see all these woods, these trees, all I see is potential burial grounds. The way these two be at it, they had a good time. They did have a good time. But for me, my greatest issue with them is how extreme Lindsey can be. Sometimes he'll just say, oh, I need some space. Okay, we're done. Okay, I'm gonna invest more. All right, I love you. Babe, where's the in-between? Mike and Jasmina are next. And Mike is trying to reignite the spark that they felt on their wedding day. And it says that's the time. I'm sorry, this whole episode just had me laughing. I could not believe some of these conversations. He was like, this is that was the time where they had the strongest connection. And I'm like, so when you guys first saw each other and all you knew was y'all names, you didn't know anything about each other, that's when y'all were the most connected. So as soon as y'all got to know each other, things just started going downhill. I was like, damn. He was talking about how he wants them to rewrite their vows, and I feel like that's a great idea because in both of their vows, they refer to things like being a safe space for each other, being vulnerable, remembering that each person is a human and that they're not infallible, which they both severely failed on both ends. They truly did. So I think that rewriting their vows is a good idea. Mike took her back to the wedding venue. It was very nice. He set up a romantic dinner, which she very much so appreciated. They then recited their new vows, which I think had more sentimental value because now they actually know each other.
I vow to accept you unconditionally. I also vow to not cut you off. I promise that the safe space I will create a beautiful life for us as well.
I promise to give you my 110% effort every day. I promise to talk with you and not at you. But most importantly, I vow to treat every day like this isn't it.
Later on, Mike shares that he's now actually very invested in her life. He wants to talk to her more. He wants to know what's going on more. She says that this last week is really what turned things around for her and she could see more potential. They had their little slow dance situation that was cute and all. But at the end of the day, Jasmina is still fighting with not quite having feelings romantically for him. She can see the potential of it, but she just doesn't have it. And my thing is, when y'all have these good days, I think it's great. But it kind of just feels like they're still brushing things under the rug. But something she said at the after show made me think, maybe they actually could be making strides. So let me not judge. Moving on to Ola and Katina. Their portion is short because we're going to skip straight to the dinner. Katina planned the month-anniversary date, and Ola shared on the date that he's becoming a different man while being with her. He feels like he does recognize that sometimes he speaks without thinking. He's quick to point the finger at people when in fact he might also be at fault for certain things. And right now he would rate his marriage at an 8 or 9 out of 10. And I'm here stop rating the marriage. Just stop rating it because this is a 9. an 8 or a 9. Very concerning for me. At the dinner, while preparing for the dinner, Katina's there like, I can't wait to hear, the tea that everybody's got. Unbeknownst to her, her husband is the one that's got the tea. And it's in regards to her. Basically, he's at the table and he's saying that he saw something on her phone that makes him question their connection as a whole. But even when he's talking about the connection, he says he's not sure if they have a marriage connection or a friendship connection. And this thing right here is just disqualifying any connection at all.
Do you want me to say it? I will say it.
No, because I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. I'm lost, just like everybody else. No idea. From one minute, we're kissing at the table, and then the next minute, it's like Jekyll and Hyde. No idea.
He then goes to say he doesn't want to address it on camera because it's going to make her look bad. So then why bring it up at all? That's what I'm not under. Why? Like, you're almost making her seem worse because you're leaving minds to wander, not just other people's, but even hers. She's like, hey, hold on. Actually, what did I do? And I appreciate her saying, no, let's not address it because I don't know what you're talking about. And I would appreciate us having a private conversation before you air my business out in front of these people. Like, that's unfair to me. So when they're having their conversation back at the house, he blows up on her because he found a dating app on her phone, but it's been idle. Like, she doesn't have a profile in there. It's just been transferred over the years, is my assumption. And he's like, no, there's no excuse, but also explain yourself. And then I'm not going to let you explain yourself. It was just all kinds of confusion.
All I hear is excuses.
It's not excuses.
They are excuses. If it's on your phone, it's an excuse because what you're gonna say of why it's on your phone is an excuse of why it's there. You are married.
Granted, I understand the frustration of it all. You're in here thinking, I found my person, this is it. And then you find out that they still have a dating app on their phone. I think it warrants a conversation. It definitely did not warrant the shouting at her, the cutting her off and not letting her explain, even though you just asked her to explain her side. Like, to me, that's what's not making sense to me. He later on says, I'm investing so much, and to see that you're really not taking this seriously was really him projecting, because he thinks if he was the one to have it, his intention would be to scout, to still be looking for potential partners when he's actually supposed to be focused on Katina.
I deleted every single thing that makes you question who I am as a person. You can roll your eyes. That's all I need to say.
I'm rolling my eyes
see.
because you're yelling
But
at
it's
me.
okay. It's okay.
That's why I'm rolling my eyes.
Then we don't need to talk.
So he's assuming, if that's what I would do, that's obviously what you would do. So clearly you don't take it seriously. And like I said, the only thing that I can guess is that the app was just transferred from phone to phone, or maybe like she's had this phone for a long time and just deleted it, forgot about it. It is what it is. I didn't appreciate that he didn't give her an opportunity to explain herself. Because this isn't like Ryan, where he was actively on the app, actually matched with somebody, and then tried to pretend like he didn't know what was going on. I feel like those are different situations. But then again, Ola's just so erratic. So really, the reaction makes sense. Now, moving on to the after party. On the panel today was Katina, Jasmina, and Melissa Fredericks. Okay, Miss Kev on stage. And I love the Black Girl Magic. Katina shares that because she knows Ola is quick to speak, she has gotten used to just letting him get his point across, even though, some things are serious, some things are like fluff. She's just going to let him say everything at once and then address it later.
You can either meet them where they're at, or you can just let them get their whatever off and then come back to it later. When I do get in those moments, I just am like, okay, I'm just going to let him speak.
My issue with that is you're kind of priming him to do this continuously. He knows that he could just be loose at the lips and then just apologize for it later, or think retrospectively and be like, oh, that wasn't a thing to say, and then, rectify the situation later. I don't think that's okay, because at some point that gets old. You are an adult. You should be able to think, what are the repercussions of the words I'm about to say? And in thinking of those things, is this worth saying? If it is worth saying, how am I gonna say it to make sure, the least amount of blowback comes on me? But he doesn't think like that. And to me, that's very immature. They bring up the way that Ola spoke to her and how it makes her sad for herself watching it back. But she says, ultimately, meeting somebody where they are at when they're like on 10 like that doesn't help anything. And Melissa actually commends her for doing that, because that's something that seasoned married people tend to do.
I can meet you and it's gonna be on and popping, or I can maintain my cool and then we can have a responsible, adult, healthy conversation. That's a vet. That's a vet. Because I'm 18 years in, and on any day, it can go down. It can go down.
Jasmina shares that she also knows that Ola is quick to speak and slow to think. Emphasis on the slow to think. And because he apologizes for the things that he says shortly after, she kind of lets him slide. Again, I say, you're showing him that this behavior is okay. You're reinforcing his behavior. And that's not okay. I don't need you to come at me like a freaking, whatever, a Tasmanian devil, whatever analogy you want to use to explain him. And then because he comes and apologizes, I should just forget everything that happened. No. Even if I'm okay with people doing that, constantly reaffirming that behavior is not healthy for a marriage, for a person. You should be able to think, how are my actions going to affect the people I'm putting them on? And therefore, maybe I should think before I speak. That's just adulthood. Come on, y'all. So on to Jasmina's marriage herself. She says that the reason why things changed in the last week for them was because Michael finally realized that there's a difference between what he thinks Jasmina wants and what Jasmina actually wants.
He kept saying, well, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I'm not asking for X, Y, and Z. I'm asking for A, B, and C. And so it just makes me so happy that, he finally,
he got it.
He gets it.
So with Michael, even though he was putting in an effort, unfortunately, it went unappreciated because it wasn't what she was asking for. You know what I mean? So I get what she's saying. I think she could still have given him grace throughout those first couple weeks because he's still getting to know you. And if you're constantly on the defense, it's hard to get to know you. So I'm trying to do these gestures and they're going unappreciated. So then I don't even want to try anymore. And then you're complaining that I'm not trying. I feel like she definitely could have given him more grace at the beginning, but whatever, they've turned the corner, so that's fine. Jasmina also gets emotional when she's talking about the anniversary because now that they actually have a relationship, recreating that wedding moment felt so much more real and sentimental because now she knows him. Now she has some level of trust for him, some sort of feelings for him.
For him to recreate that and it was just us two just made it more, I'm crying. It just made it more special. Because we do talk about that day being like our, best day together. And so for him to, recreate that, it was very, very thoughtful.
I mean, mission accomplished for Michael. That was basically his whole thing. He wanted to, bring that spark back, which he did. She does still say that the romantic feelings are still what's missing. And she felt that at the beginning, potentially. And then now with everything they've been through, she just doesn't feel that anymore. I think that them constantly resetting is, I guess, good, but I don't know. I think there's a benefit in learning from what they've already gone through. So to be like, okay, let's just cancel everything that happened, and just restart. And that is what she said in the episode. She had said, I feel like we had wasted that 4 weeks. And that's not necessarily true. You learned that, we can tend to bump heads. But when we make this stride and that stride and we try this new method, we can work through it. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that the reset makes her even like just change her mindset, but also remember this has already not worked, so let's do something else. Like, don't restart, actually like reset. Now here's the tea. They bring up the dating app situation, and Katina says that she wouldn't have, the whole situation wouldn't have blown up the way that it happened if it was brought up in a better way. Because she's like, I wouldn't have even done that to my own friends because you set me up.
So for me, because I know I didn't do anything, it's more so like you're trying to embarrass me now.
Jasmina, what were you thinking? Because your face was like...
Mike and I actually got into an argument that same night. Not even like it wasn't even an argument. It was just, I was like, he did that to my friend?
Come to find out, Jasmina, see, why would you have both of them? Jasmina was really like getting agitated with Ola, I think at the table a little bit, but definitely when they got home. And Michael was trying to bring her back down because he knew what the situation was about.
I was so upset at Olajuwon and him being Mike's friend. Mike was like, nah. Mike knew.
Okay.
And so Mike was trying to calm me down because I was just so upset with the
Mike
delivery.
is trying to calm you down.
Yeah, and I was like, no, what could it be? Because that doesn't make any sense.
Now, how are you gonna say, I don't want to bring something up because it's gonna make my wife look bad, you know? We need to focus on our relationship. We need, like, you know, you're my wife, I come first, blah, blah, blah. But then you go and you tell somebody else who's not in your marriage what the actual problem is before you tell your wife. And then you want to set her up in front of company. And then you don't want to tell her what's up until after. Nah, I'm sorry. I know, like, Ola means well. That's what everybody says. Ola means, even Melissa on this episode, you know, I've grown to love Ola. Yeah, girl, that's great. But the red flags are red flagging. The red flags are red flagging. They're almost maroon at this point, okay? It's just, nah. So on the ride home, everybody, like on the bus, because they all came in a bus, thinks that the reason why he was upset was because Katina, Jasmina, and I think it was all the women, let me just say all the women, were wanting to have an alcoholic drink because they were trying not to give them alcohol, and Ola isn't a fan of excessive drinking.
We thought it was a Tito's bottle.
Yeah, so before we were on the bus, they were trying to give us like non-alcoholic champagne
drinks on our 1 month.
I'm like, this is our 1 month anniversary.
So y'all brought your own stash.
Lindsey was like, she has something in her house. So
Lindsey
Katina was
said
like,
she
I'm going
got
to go
it.
and get it.
Lindsey does.
Yeah.
I could understand why they would make that deduction because Ola is really not trying to be like Isaac at all. So the excessive drinking, it makes sense why he doesn't want to do that because that, you know, facilitated the bad behavior that he used to engage in. And then the whole like app thing, it also makes sense because he was probably somebody who was always on the prowl looking for his next lay, probably by way of the apps, you know? So it makes sense. But like, I just still need somebody to articulate themselves better. Like the alcohol thing, it seems like Katina understands it. The dating app thing, I wish he would have just explained more of like, this is why it upsets me. And this is clearly coming from bias when I'm looking at myself. But let me hear your side. Let me let you explain. That's all we're asking for. She says that when the cameras left, she tried her best to apologize, but he just wasn't in a place to be receptive of an apology. And that's all she said. I guess they're gonna go into it more in the next episode. But my takeaway is, I don't care what kind of good intentions you have, the actions really speak louder than your words. And Ola, I'm sorry, it's too much to ignore. And my fear is that they're gonna stay together. And I'm like, okay, know what you're signing up for though. Because remember at the end of the main episode, she's like, well, you're gonna see the real Katina. Where is she? This would have been the time. I think even Melissa said it. This would have been the time for her to show up.
If there was ever a time where I wanted Katina to go off, it was at the table. It was in that moment, I felt like she definitely could have been like, okay, so first of all,
right,
let's put it all out on the table. Like, what is it?
Not a fan. Not a fan. I'm glad that Katina is able to deal with it. It seems like she's doubling down on the fact that they are a good pair. But just because she's able to take it doesn't mean she needs to go through it. That's all. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all in the next one.